Now, we begin today's show with the issue of bus shelters in West Clare. I spoke earlier with the Quilty Fianna Fáil councillor Michael Shannon about a call for the erection of more bus shelters in the west of the county, and I began by asking Michael to further outline why such calls are being made.
We seem to have a big issue with bus shelters in West Clare on trying to get locations for them, because a lot of business owners, they don't want them outside their shops and that, but I'll just give you, we had a notice of motion for Kilrush and another one for Kilmihil in our last EMD meeting, and basically in Kilmihil they have 8 services a day now between the local link services and the bus services to Ennis and Kilkee. And, we have quite a lot of people actually using those services, which I'm very pleased about. But unfortunately, they're getting soaked in the rain. And why I've got a bit annoyed about it is there's an allocation of €500,000 a year allocated from the government in Dublin, to erect these bus shelters. The way people can get off and get on safely, and also this inclement weather that we're having all winter and all year. It's very hard to be going to work and you're getting wet, and elderly people using the buses as well, and they're getting soaked waiting for buses, So I'm calling on the Kilrush MD to identify locations and get these bus shelters erected. Kilkee was the last new bus shelter, and that was erected in 24. There was one in Quilty in my own village, and that's over 20 years old. But apart from that, around West Clare, there seems to be no other bus shelters. There's one in Nina that was erected, I think, in 24 as well, but they're very few and far between. And I'd like to see the 500,000 a year on an annual basis being used. We're encouraging people all the time to use these local services and bus airline services for traffic reduction of cars. And, a lot of people are using them going to work in Ennis and going shopping into Ennis now, because, as you know, parking is at a premium in Ennis to get a parking space. And we're all encouraging people to use bus services, but we need to ensure that we have the correct infrastructure for people to alight the bus, both safely and also dry, there's people aren't getting soaked and the rain,
So, Michael, is it Kilmihil and Kilrush in particular at the moment that are particular issues due to the frequency of the service? Would there be more of a service to those locations than the other locations in West Clare that you mentioned?
No, I mean, back to Mullock and Milton Malbay, there's 6 services a day with the local link, along with another service going with bus airn. There is a little bit of shelter in Mullock village and Quilty. There is a bus stop. And Milltown, there's probably shelters. There's a little shelter there in the centre of the town. But we can erect ones in our small towns and villages that can fit maybe 5 to 7 people in, quite comfortably. And they don't have to be that large either, they can be compact size. They have new modular types now, even for 2 or 3 people, and I'd like to see those rolled out as well, because the infrastructure needs to be upgraded in order to get people using these services. And they're fantastic services, and I want to ensure that they survive. And there's one way that they survive is people using them. And I want to ensure that people keep using them, and also that people are safe to get on and off and dry. And I mean, pensioners using the bus, waiting for a bus, and a shower of rain comes and they're getting wet. That's not good enough in today's world. And that's for every village in West Clare. I mean, Kildysart, Cranny, Kilmihil, all of those, they have all services. Even the town of Kilrush, I know that there is a plan for a new bus shelter in the new town rejuvenation plan that's been out for public consultation at the moment. And I'd encourage people to look at that and to see is it in the right place. But it would be a very big improvement, because, as you know, Kilrush is the main urban centre back in West Clare for all services, and there's a lot of people using those services from Kilrush, and they go via Kilmihil. And Kilmihil is probably in the centre of the local community there. You have a catchment area from Kilmurray-McMahon up, and you have Carmurphy and Cree and all that. They meet the buses in Kilmihil, and you could have maybe 15, 20 people in Kilmihil in the mornings waiting for the service, waiting for the bus to arrive. it's not too bad getting out, alighting the bus, getting off the bus, but waiting for the bus to stop. And, sometimes there might be only one or two people there, and you're trying to stand out to ensure that the bus does stop, so.
And is this something, Michael, that those who use the bus are flagging with you? Have you had a considerable number of people in touch who are kind of discommoded or put out by the weather and lack of bus shelters?
Yeah, they have been in contact with me, and a lot of pensioners have got cold and things. They might have plans to go to Ennis or Kilrush of a day, and if it's raining, a very bad day, they won't go because of it, because if they get caught, they can get caught with the bus stop, and the bus might be late 5 or 10 minutes, and you get in this type of weather, you'll get drowned and they wait for the final day to come, but that shouldn't be the case, especially when there's a budget of money there, €500,000 a year to be used, and every village that the bus is stopping and starting from, it should have a bus shelter, no question of that.
And that $500,000 you mention is part of the bus stop enhancement programme, which allocates that $500,000 to each local authority to fund the enhancement of the shelters. So can you give us a kind of outline of the extent of interaction or engagement on this? Have you received a response?
In fairness to the Kilrush MD, they have looked in Kilmihil and Kilrush and over a number of years, and they failed to come up with an agreed location for it. But I mean, as local councillor now, I'm insisting on a finalisation of the locations and the erection of them for the 2026 year. Because since COVID, and I think in recent years there has been a huge uptake in public transport. And we need to keep encouraging that, because we've only a finite, I suppose, a space to park all cars in our major urban areas. And, these services are supported by the Department of Transport and Rural Affairs. And, we need to ensure that these services are enhanced, and kept. What's there is kept and enhanced further. And that the experience and using them by the passenger has to be improved all the time. There's always room for improvement, and this is one of the key things that will ensure that people will have confidence to use them and use them any day they like. I suppose when you imagine it, there is a bit of responsibility of location that you have an engineer's report has to be done to ensure that the passengers getting on and off the bus is in a safe place. And it isn't safe because you're crossing the road, you have a lot of activity with other cars and movement around those stations, So, but I'd like to see a finalisation of locations and the erection and the full allocation used and maybe exceeded for a couple of years in order to play catch up,
In some of the locations you have mentioned, are there pretty obvious places where bus shelters could be erected? If in those locations where the bus stops as things stand are located wouldn't make ideal locations for bus shelters, is there an alternative where the commuters, those who use the service, would make an ideal spot?
Yeah, they have pinpointed in Kilmihil now, the users, they have pinpointed an area slightly ahead where the bus stops, and I think that will be acceptable to everyone as far as I can see, and the engineers are looking at it at the moment. And Kilrush is going to take its own course with the new redevelopment of the streetscapes in Kilrush, and the bus stops will be integrated as part of that, But priority, I think we need to ensure that these get erected in the year of 2026, because when people are using the services, I think it's great, and I think, we need to ensure that people can shelter from this inclement weather, because you can get wet weather, as you know, in Ireland, summer and winter. So, it's not so much the cold, it's just the rain and the wet, that people will get wet waiting for the buses.
And you have highlighted how this would help in terms of rural connectivity goals. Do you feel that a lack of bus shelter provision might also undermine, if it does undermine rural connectivity goals and dissuades people from using public transport, that ultimately it undermines our climate goals as well?
Absolutely. I'd agree with you there. The feedback I'm getting is people are extremely happy with the service, and they're delighted in using the service. But this is one of the little things that needs to be improved. And up to lately, there was very few using those rural public buses. and it wasn't probably a major issue. But now, when you have a group of people, especially in the morning and evenings, going and coming to work, it's hard to go to work, and you're getting wet in the morning. It's unacceptable in today's world, and especially when the services are being so successful, and the engagement of the community and the positivity about them. It's something that we should, we should cherish, and like, we have to meet our climate targets as well, and this is all part of that, and we have to ensure that more enhancements are probably needed in the services. We might get extra services, but at the moment we have great services between Kilkee and Kilrush, between the local link services and the bus airing services. They're really enhanced in the last number of years, and people are taking up the offering that's there, and that's the main thing, that people have this image sometimes of public transport that there's hardly no one in the buses, but there's a lot of people on the buses, and a lot of people actually, they have no other means of transport, and because remember we have a huge restriction on young learner drivers now. They can't drive on their own, and there's a backlog for the driving licence test. So they're using the bus as well, some of them,
What just finally, what is the next step? And given, as you mentioned, there would be certain steps that would have to be gone through, including engineers' reports and so on. How long do you think it's going to take before the bus shelters that you're seeking are built and located in the locations in West Clare where you feel, and commuters feel they're needed?
Before next summer, I'd hope, before even they could give it a bit of time for autumn next year, I'd hope that the few that we have highlighted and pinpointed, that basically that we'd have those up and running anyway. Kilrush might take a little bit longer, but we might be able to get it prioritised, provided the location is agreed with the streetscapes. We might be able to build that bus shelter in one of the first things to be done in the town, and then you could have the streetscapes continue on after that.
Okay.
So that would be my outlook on it, and I will be working with the engineers and in the coming months, and I'm satisfied that it is a top priority for them as well to get these locations finalised. Like, it's just a little bit of work on them, but it's not huge work. It's just, I suppose, finalising the location is one of the biggest, and once that's done, these come to be put up down modular, but we may have to adjust the footpaths and where the bus pulls in and that kind of thing. So that type of work has to be done, all right, yeah. But our local people on the ground will be able to do that once the engineers finalise the locations. I'd be very hopeful that by next summer we should have major progress made in these.
Okay, well, we will watch this space. The Quilty Fianna Fáil councillor Michael Shannon, thank you for joining us on Morning Focus.
That's all. Thank you very much.